We begin with the question asked more than 3 years ago. Will Turkey tip the scales in Syria? Parliament approving participation in the US-led coalition against jihadists, a wide margin, 298 to 98, when the West clearly did not have the stomach to send troops to take on Bashar al-Assad. Many openly egged on Ankara, but despite an overflow of refugees, Turkish troops did not cross the border. Instead, Turkey's leader Recep Tayyip Erdogan backed various shades of Islamists, with critics argue an ambivalent attitude towards ISIS. Well, Thursday's vote clears the air. Or does it? Does this mean Erdogan finds himself backing rival Kurds who across the border find themselves in a fierce fight with the jihadists? Or for that matter, is he unwittingly on the same side as Assad? Erdogan insists the active fight against ISIS must also include the fight against Syria's president. What's his plan? And how do Turks feel about it all? Today in the France 24 debate, Turkey joins the fight. With us to talk about it from Ankara, Mehmet Özkan of the SETA think tank, just back from the UN General Assembly in New York. Thank you for joining us here in the studio. Christopher Dickey, foreign editor of the Daily Beast, just back from Istanbul.
Everybody's going there these days.
Yeah. All right, Emre Demir, he is sedentary here in Paris. He's the editor of the French language edition of Zaman. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And Jana Jabor, who's researching Turkey's Middle East diplomacy under Erdogan at the French Political Science Institute, Sciences Po. Thank you for being with us. The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation, and you have on Facebook and Twitter our hashtag F24debate. A wide margin for this vote. And what was interesting, and this is something our correspondent was saying a short while ago, in debate, Mehmet Özkan, we heard some defections from the AKP side, and we also heard Kurds who were divided over whether to vote yes or no. Mehmet Özkan, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes, I can hear you now. I can hear you now. Yes.
I was just going to say the vote was by a wide margin in favor of joining the coalition. But our correspondent, Jasper Mortimer, was telling us earlier that there was dissension within the ranks inside of the AKP, and there was also dissension among Kurdish members of parliament.
I mean, that could be, but I think we should not focus on whether some people defect, some people did not vote for the yes, but we should focus on the result that the motion has been passed in the parliament now. I think that's more important. And what does that mean for Turkey and for Turkish foreign policy and the fight against ISIL? It means that Turkey is on the ground, and Turkey will be on the ground, and all the options on the table. In that way, because as you know, the military option has been limited, especially Turkey's option has been limited until 2 weeks ago, when ISIL had 49 Turkish people as hostage. Now Turkey has been released, and from now on Turkey is trying to calculate all the options, including military options. That's why this motion came to parliament today. The fact that it has passed, I think that is the most important thing for today and Turkish politics. It doesn't matter whether some people defected or not. I think that's the main result of today, and it will have huge repercussion, of course, for Turkey's fight against ISIL, and at the same time all international communities fight against ISIL. Of course, with all the pros and cons that we might be discussing in the future. Of course, this is a complex issue, but I think the point is that the motion has been passed as expected, and now Turkey has all the options on the table, including military options.
Emre Demir, over the past 3 years, many inside of the AKP felt that the president, the now president, he was prime minister before, was perhaps too hardline in his push. Now, though, how is public opinion feel about joining the coalition?
Well, first of all, there's not a Turkish public opinion who supports ISIS. We cannot talk about a social problem about ISIS, the support of radical Islamism in Turkey. So there was not quite important opposition about a war against ISIS.
And it is a wide margin.
Yeah, it is a wide margin. There were some serious concerns from the opposition parties about the extension of the bill, because we don't know. It's very vague. It's not certain. We don't know how will Turkey react. Will there be a military intervention? Will there be the Turkish boots on the ground? So there were some concerns, but initially, if you compare with the Iraqi intervention in 2003, Turkish public opinion was overwhelmingly against a military intervention. Now it's not the case.
Mehmet Özkan, what will the Turkish military be doing, and how soon will they be doing it?
I think it is, I mean, we should not expect that Turkey will use its military power immediately. But the fact that the motion means that, I mean, that option is on the table at the same time, because this is a very complex issue. That's one aspect of Kurdish politics in general, you know, a PWD, PKK, and all those aspects. The other issue, international operation against ISIL, and whether there will be some boots on the ground or international community is asking Turkey to do that. And at the same time, as you know, the border issue is extremely tangible in these days. You know, many people are crossing to Turkey now. In last 10 days, around 200,000 people they entered Turkey. So when you see this is a very complex issue. I mean, the point here, I mean, we should not really expect that Turkey will use immediate military power, but it will be one of the options. I think today Turkey widened its options in this crisis, and that's the key point. But we should not expect that to use military option, because military, it will be last option in Turkey's case, because I don't think it will have huge support from Turkish society also to use the Turkish military in there. Also, Turkey considers this issue is not only ISIL, but it's a wider issue, it's a regional issue. It regards to Syria as well. That's why Turkey has been trying to push all international committee in last weeks to take a position against Assad, because that's the area that's creating the ISIL problem. If today we can eliminate the ISIL, but tomorrow we can have another organization with different acronyms. So the point here, I mean,
let's pick up on that point. Let's pick up on that point and hear what the president said when he spoke before Parliament on Wednesday. Recep Tayyip Erdogan addressing lawmakers and on the eve of the vote in Ankara.
Faced with terror, we as a nation are open and willing to enter a coalition. But everyone needs to know that Turkey isn't a country that will be satisfied with temporary solutions. The tons of bombs that will be dropped from the skies will only be a temporary solution and will only delay the danger and the threat.
All right, temporary solutions. Christopher Dickey, what does he mean?
Well, first of all, if we're going to look at this parliamentary vote so closely, we need to step back and say, what is it really about? It's not about sending troops into Syria. It's about sending a signal to NATO and to the United States that Turkey is willing to do something. Because up to now, Turkey has done nothing in terms of the war against ISIS. In fact, ISIS has gotten most of its recruits, foreign recruits, and most of its arms through Turkish territory. That hasn't been stopped. It has marketed most of its diesel fuel, which earns it about $2 million a day, through Turkish territory. That hasn't been stopped. This is a minor symbolic move by a parliament that was not going to do anything that Erdogan did not want it to do. So I think he just, this is a symbol. We are not going to see Turkish troops rolling into Syria anytime soon, if ever. Because, in fact, Erdogan feels, as he was saying there, that fighting ISIS is not the priority. Fighting ISIS is just part of the game. Fighting Assad is his priority, and keeping the Kurds in line is his other priority. ISIS is number 3 on the list. So I think that as you look at the situation, this is a lot of symbolism and not much action. And I don't think we're going to be seeing much action anytime soon.
Erdogan saying the return of more than 1.5 million refugees to Syria is also a priority for our country. The removal of the Assad government and the territorial integrity of Syria will also remain a priority for Turkey. Jana Jabor, listening to what Erdogan said on Wednesday, do you get the sense that his top priority is still Assad?
Well, I think the top priority for Erdogan at the moment is actually to reposition himself as the leader of the Middle East. I mean, throughout the 2000s and since the ascent to power of the AKP, the objective of the AKP was to develop a very active foreign policy in the Middle East in order to make Turkey a regional power. However, after the Arab Spring, Turkey has failed in its foreign policy, and we turned from a zero-problem policy with the neighbors developed by Ahmet Davutoğlu to a zero neighbor without problem. And that's why Erdogan is now seizing this opportunity to intervene in Syria in order to reposition himself as a leader of the Muslim world.
So this is more than just, in other words, this is more than just a symbolic vote in that respect. This is a pivot back towards the U.S.
Well, the problem that Erdogan has is that he put all his cards on the Muslim Brotherhood. And the Muslim Brotherhood has been crushed all over the Middle East by the Saudis and the Emiratis, and to some extent other powers. So I think he's lost big. That's why he's got zero neighbors without problems. And as a result, he's trying to reposition himself. But there is, and you can see it when he speaks, there is this kind of Ottoman arrogance about Erdogan that stands up and says, we are going to tell you how it's done. We are proudly going to lead the way. Well, I don't think many people in the Middle East are interested in being led by Erdogan anymore. So I think he's going to have a lot of trouble repositioning himself. All
right, we're going to put what you said there to the test about Turkey staying out of it. There are two big developments that are occupying the minds right now on both sides of the border between Turkey and Syria. And of course, the first one is the fighters, the jihadists, who have encircled nearly, they're on three sides, the town of Kobane. It's called Kobane in Kurdish. It's called Ain al-Arab in Arabic. Let's join now reporter Alain Caval, who is near the border. Alain, tell us where you are.
I am currently in Suruç. It's very close to the border to Kobane. It's the Turkish town, the last Turkish town before the Syrian border and Kobane, and the place which are controlled at the moment, and for we don't know when, we don't know how long, by the YPG forces, the Kurdish forces.
Alan, I'm going to read to you what the imprisoned leader of the Kurdish separatist PKK movement, Abdullah Öcalan, has said in a statement released by his movement. He has said, he's warned the Turks not to stand idle while Kobane gets overrun. If this massacre attempt achieves its goals, it will end the peace process with Turkey. He is saying, what have you witnessed firsthand in terms of what do Kurds want at this point?
Well, the Kurds of Turkey want Kobane to stand, and they want Turkey not to occupy Kobane and not to contest the Kurdish control of the areas under now the control of the YPG and the Kurdish forces. And they want Turkey to take a stand against ISIS, but if Turkey intervenes in Syria against ISIS, it must not undermine the Kurdish autonomy in Syria. This is
I was going to say, isn't that a bit contradictory? They don't want the Kurds, they don't want the Turks, excuse me, taking over Kobane, but they want the Turks to intervene. Isn't that a contradiction?
Well, they don't want because it's a very difficult situation. You have on the one hand you have IS, which is on the verge of coming into the town of Kobane. On the other hand, you have the YPG, which is supported by the majority of the Kurds in Turkey, as they see the cause of Kobane as their own cause. They don't make a difference between what's happening in Kobane and what's happening in Turkey. It's a common cause because the people in Kobane and the people in Turkey are very close to each other. And the Kurdish party in Turkey is the same. It belongs to the same movement than the Kurdish party in Syria. And so they're very close links. So they want the Kurds to keep Kobane under their control. So they want the Turks, they want Turkey to recognize this autonomy, and they do not want that this intervention. They don't want this intervention to be tackled without cooperation with the Kurdish forces on the ground. They want cooperation between the Kurdish forces and the Turkish army, and the PYD leadership and the YPG leadership has always been extremely clear on that point, that they are ready to cooperate with the Turkish army if the Turkish state recognizes their right to rule the Kurdish areas in Syria.
All right. So the final question for you, a lot to pick up on there. But Alan, what happens if Kobane falls?
Well, if Kobane falls, the Turkish government will be held responsible by the Turkish Kurdish population, and we can say that the Kurdish cities of Turkey will enter a state of insurrection against the Turkish state, and there will be very tough demonstrations. And it could be if Kobane falls, and if Turkey lets Kobane fall, this would be a kind of a political suicide for the majority for the government in Turkey, because it will undermine certainly the peace process, which has been very difficult to keep on this past.
Alan Cavallo, I want to thank you very much for joining us from the border area there between Turkey and Syria. Reactions coming in from the viewers here on France 24. One saying, ISIS will retreat, leaving space for Turks to kill Kurds, pretending they're all PKK. No buffer zone, says that person, who's obviously a supporter there. Of the Kurdish cause. That brings us to the question that's been put forth by Erdogan himself of the concept of a buffer zone. Mehmet Özkan, how do you see this buffer zone being put in place? Who takes care of it? Practically, how would it work?
You know, buffer zone idea actually is one of the options that Turkey proposed, but it's extremely difficult to implement. We should be honest on that. I mean, international community is not eager to have such a buffer zone, and if it happens, only it will be implemented by Turkey. And Turkey is offering this because that's the only way we can prevent the refugees coming Turkey, and also refugees being sort of massacred in there. It's a huge area, and it's not only, it's creating more problem. Also, it will influence directly to Turkey. Imagine, you know, if you don't have a buffer zone, what will happen? ISIL will have direct contact with Turkey that will have negative repercussion as well for Turkish politics internally. But at the same time, with regard to Kurdish politics, I think there is one thing should be understood. ISIL is as poisonous for Turkey as Kurds. It has equal danger for Kurdish politics and Turkish politics. But Kurdish political leaders still they don't understand this. I mean, they still think that they will be a relevant actor again in the Middle East. I think if ISIL start to control everybody, and PKK will be eliminated as well, I don't think they will have a chance. And that's why Kobane is a point, and I don't think they will have too much power. And the fact that by doing that, Kurdish politicians, especially PKK, try to get military support from the West, and at the same time try to be an important actor. But I think that they are making a big mistake on that, because ISIL is equally dangerous for the Kurds as well, and it has same danger for Turkey.
All right,
so that should
Mehmet, we're going to pick up on that point.
action.
We have to take a quick break. We'll be right back. So much more to talk about. This is the France 24 debate.